Yes, take a practice or the
I
master.
would take the master.
Just the master's.
What's up, y'all?
I had passed the practice from 7 to 7, but not the master.
That's funny. That's funny. How's everybody doing this morning? Very, very, very cool.
I did all
Lots of like, how fun is it starting to get like from having the different securities classes? Like it's like I'm listening and people are learning and having conversations. It's not the same topic, right? We have multiple classes that are going on. We got people, and it's fun because we got people that are going to pass the 63 and move to the 6. People are going to pass 63, move into the 65, right? New people that are coming in, passing the light, that are moving into the 6. Like, right? Every once in a while, right? We forge our own way. You know, and one of the goals, obviously, is, and one of the things I think I enjoy the most is listening to Sue and Don. And the reason is, ideally, right, within a handful of weeks, months, whatever, Dawn's running the 63, and Cindy's working with her, right? And then, you know, David's working with Wade on the 65. Right, and so Wade's teaching it, David's learning, and then pretty soon David's teaching it, and Wade's working, and we're building an infrastructure where on Saturday we've got multiple people being able to co-teach multiple parts for the people that enjoy that, grow their skills, develop, right? It's an opportunity to develop leadership, it's an opportunity to develop communication, it's an opportunity to be able to grow within your team. And so to have the infrastructure for that and to have that process where, right, we start learning it, we start driving it, we start learning it, and then growing. That's a significant part of what the plan has been, and so the fact that it's actually working is firing me up, right, beyond measure. Now, pass your tests, please. No pressure and pass your other tests. It's funny, Kurt Joyner's at not yes.
Where are we at in terms of the numbers? Right?
Hey, so Kurt Joyner's at number 1.
I want to know what I want to know. 30 seconds later, that's like when you have to start and you stop the guy like, hey, where's the other? Just turn around.
So Kurt Joyner's at 9. We are at 6. Okay. So in the next week, our friend Oscar's taking and passing his test, right or wrong. Right. So that's going to be one more. Right. In the not so distant future, Sean's taking it and passing it. Right. In the month of November, we've got 3 or 4 people taking fast. So I believe we'll be over 9. We'll be at least at 9 by the end of October, by the end of November, with a handful of folks getting ready to crush the, finish the job kind of going through in December. So I think it's going to take 13 to get to number 1. I think we're close if things kind of work together. So that's a very, very, very fun kind of experience for this group. Right? Because 2 things happen when we do this, right? Like I was talking about a second ago, we now have an infrastructure. We have a growth process. It also frees up some of our time and attention to actually go grow this thing on a consistent basis, right? The people that have had the most growth in the organization, if you guys haven't figured this out in the last 6 months, are Wade and Kristen and Bob and Don. Right? Well, isn't it interesting that Wade's not studying for any tests and is actually able to grow the business, and Don's not studying for tests and able to grow the business? Like, isn't that fascinating that when you free up any of the time that you're using right now to study, and you have that time, you can be like, well, I can go do something else, or I can take that time and I can increase my skill. I can take that time, I can go on appointments. I can take that time, I can go visit with people. Right? If you use that time to use your license, can we see that there's going to be a growth principle that follows? Right? So this isn't magic fairy dust. Every once in a while, I talk about the fact of what 17 look like, what 18 is going to look like, and I watch some people, and they're like, well, Brett, how do you know? I know because I know that our eyes go where our hands go where our eyes go, right? If we look into the wall, we're going to crash. Right? If we've got our licenses and we're talking about cultivating, developing our markets and growing and processing, we are going to tell our story. Do we have a good story? Yeah, so let's just take a step back for a second. Do we have a good story?
Yes.
Do we have a good way to tell the story?
Yes.
If you have the time and energy to tell the story, and you actually tell the story are you going to increase your skill at telling the story?
Yes.
So if we have a good story, it tells well, you get good at telling it, and you have people to tell it to. Do we think there are some inevitable results that are coming? So, for those of us that are like, really? Yes. So, and that becomes part of where this is, right? What is it that we're talking about? How do we create, right? And so, one, I forgot I was going to go to the store because one of the things that I wanted to do today, and I did it. Okay. So, everyone do me a favor for a second. Stand up. Actually, everyone do me a favor. Come get in a line here. I want to try something. The single file line is going here.
I don't like these lines.
Single file line. Go around the corner. Around the corner. Around the corner. One line over here. One line. One line over here. One line over here.
Please don't.
One line over here. Okay. Paul, stand here for me. Okay, so we're practicing something. Okay, so Paul, here's what I want you to do. You've chewed gum before, have you not? Can you show me the behavior it looks like when you're chewing gum? Wow. We should get you less gum. Okay, but just a normal beat. No, seriously, like you can. Okay, now do me a favor. Now come this way. Same time though, right? So we want to make sure. Like you've done this before. Okay. Cindy, let's go through and do this. Right, right. How does that look? And then walk. Okay, Arson, I just want to make sure. Practice. All right, I haven't chewed gum in a long time. Paul's like, I am not doing this. Walk back to the chair. Right, let's sit, right? Right, I know, right? Oh, look, you didn't fall over. This is good. Right, see, look. Now, I can totally see the 80s Valley girl. Look at Dave. There's like, somebody's like, am I doing it right? Right? Susie's blowing bubbles, right? You have a mint, right? You're thinking that it's gonna turn into. Now it's silly, but part of what we also talk about is, guys, we have the capacity to do multiple things. At your jobs, if you only did one thing, you'd be fired. We have a tendency in here, and we've had a tendency, right? And it's one of those type of things that we've been really close for a long period of time without actually putting in all the effort necessary to get the job done. And so we've kind of slowed down a variety of other activities going, let's get this done, which for this group at this moment and where we are is what our priorities are. And at the same time, we're going to pass these tests, and my biggest challenge that we have built into our psyche right now is that you don't have the capacity to do multiple things. And that's just not true. And so part of this is, yes, for those of you that are taking and studying, focus on taking and studying, right? You've got your business, you've got your jobs, you've got your family. There's multiple things that are going on. And when it comes to your business, right, the bulk of your time and energy is going to go into taking and passing this test, right? Right? We know we got 60 days to do this, right? We're focused on getting this thing done. We're focused on putting this stuff behind us so that we can really ramp up and grow. But I have a question for you. When you have 8 people on your team and they're starting to learn and practice and study their tests, are you going to have to tell them that they have to shut down everything in order to study? That's a question you want to ask yourself now. Right? So we have the opportunity to focus because as a collective, we're building a culture more than we are trying to get any one person in this room to pass a test. If we have a culture of the tests being passed, it's a whole lot less heavy for the people that are coming in and doing it. Does that make sense? So we're battling on not only the learning, but we're battling the culture. We're battling a little bit of psychological impact. We're battling a little bit of scar tissue, a little bit of, can I do it? Can someone like me, someone from where I come from, someone with my schedule, can someone like fill in the blank pass this test? What we're doing in this room is we're knocking down barriers. We're saying that I don't care where you come from, I don't care if you're educated or not educated, I don't care if you're right what language you speak, I don't care what background, I don't care what kind of job you have, we can get you through this process. If you put in the time, learn the charts, develop the language, you will pass. And as we knock down those barriers, we have the ability to have people walk in, and now they're validating the passing, not trying to convince themselves that someone like them can do it. So we're battling not only you passing this test, but we're battling the culture, right? And so we're focused on that. Once we have the culture in place, now we get to leverage the culture, which means when people come in, they're going to want to study and focus, but they're not going to have to battle. They're not going to have to fight 2 wars. They're only going to have to fight 1, which means they should have the energy to fight the second war, and that second war is starting to develop their market. When we come in through the door, right, we say, look, right, a player. We have 3 phases of the player. The first one is called Rookie Camp. What is that? We're going to go see our top 10. We're going to introduce the fact that we do the financial workshops, that we're going to lock in your allies and advocates. We're going to find assets for you. We're going to go build, right? And we're going to develop your market within Rookie Camp to create momentum. We're going to hopefully get you to make a little bit of money. We're going to get you to see this work. You're going to see the F&A, the financial needs analysis work, right? You're going to input some of them. Then you're going to be essentially done with that hot market. And so we're going to transition to stage 2 of player, which is the Entrepreneur Training Camp, which is focused on getting your securities license, learning your skills, and developing your farm system, right? And so we have it built into this process that says, in ETC, they're going to learn their securities, they're going to develop their skills. So securities are 8 to 9:30, 9:30 to 11, right? We're going to develop the skills of why that they're going to practice in their week, and then ultimately we're going to start developing their farm system. Why? Because we know that this process is 2 to 4 months. If we work someone through their farm system, within 2 to 4 months, we can move people that aren't necessarily completely in their corner to a place where they're able to hear it through this process. Does that make sense? Phase 3, our game day player, right? They're building their business from quarter to quarter. What? We want 5 to 7 people in our now list, in our bullpen, 10 to 25 people on our hots in our now, and 25 to 50 in our then, right? Our lukewarm and our frozen. Right? So we look at this and we're like, okay. So someone passes their test, they get their licenses, they pivot to their game day player. Guess what? They're now starting to see their farm system, use their skills, and leveraging their securities licenses, while they're learning how to apply the principles and get their skills across the kitchen table as they start to build a team so that they can pivot to starter. Right? So when you start thinking about this, and this is for the veterans in the room, the lineup isn't just something we had just a little extra time so we didn't know what to do. It's actually a working principle for you to know what it is you're focused on. What it is to focus on for you, what it is to focus on for your people. But it's built, so we're talking about this entrepreneurial training camp right now. We're talking about we've got the securities process in place. We're talking about the fact that we've got the entrepreneurial skills that we're developing. And now part of this is, how are we learning how to communicate what we're doing, because that's a skill. How are we starting to cultivate the people in our markets so that when we've got our securities licenses, we can go back to them and say, phase 2 of the baseline, right? I told you I was working on this. This is where we are. Here's what the next set of adventures are, right? All of this starts to work together, right? And so it's key that we're like, yes, our securities is critical. But if we look at this, right, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 major steps in the game day player. The securities is where, and your player per game plan, securities is one. Now it's an important one, but it's not the only one. And so as we grow, one of the things for 18 that we really want to be clear on is we want to be able to function within this entire scope a whole lot more consistently. We want to have multiple people at every phase and able to identify where they are and what they're working on towards the next step. Right? If you're only mastering the step you're at, right? We took the twins hiking because they're 2, and that's what you should do, right? And they're on rocks, right? And they're like stepping for rock. And Robin and I on different sites, because the thing about twins is that you have 2 completely different creatures at the exact same age learning the same stuff. And so they're like, with 1, we're both together. With 2, I'm like, I'm over here, right? But I hear her and we're having the same conversation, right? With 2-year-olds, okay, where's your next step? Don't just step. Where's it going? Where's it going to put you? If you go there, what's going to happen? We're talking to our 2.5-year-olds about this independently because it's the same skill. If you step and don't know where you're going, you're going to end up somewhere, and then you have to spend more time and energy getting yourself out of an area that there was no reason for you to be. Right? So one, make sure that you're not just living in the step you're in. Right? As a ball player, right? Play one level above you. Right? I told Wade, we were talking about promotions. I'm like, look, here's what you want to do. You want to start competing at the next contract when you're in the contract you're in. It's like, well, I'm a division. I'm like, great, or district, great, go through. I'm like, well, look, make sure you compare your numbers. When I was a division, I'm comparing my numbers to regional leaders. I'm not comparing my numbers to divisions. It was a division for 6 months. But I'm like, okay, where would I have been as a regional leader? Where would I have been as a regional leader? Where would I have been as a regional leader? Where would I have been as a regional leader? Where would I have been? Why? Because when I take the regional leader contract, do I want to go all the way to the bottom? No, I want to be in a position to be able to compete at that level. It's all the same stuff. So for those of us that are on the securities, where's the next step? Well, we're moving towards here. So what do we need to have dialed in? How are we doing our skills? What's up with our farm system? What are we doing with that? What leverage time do we have to think about? Does that make sense? So, okay, and so the beauty of where we are is not only are we dialing this in, but we also have the how do you, who's first? Okay, you know, how do we not lose our focus? What tools do we have at our disposal to make sure that we can focus completely where we are, and then if it's time to pivot, we have a platform to be able to pivot. And a lot of you guys have talked with Wade, kind of talking about this Pomodoro, right? And it's a phenomenal tool of how do you focus on where you are when you're supposed to, and then when it's time to pivot, how do you let go and move to the next without the residue and develop that habit? And so Wade's gonna come up and share a couple minutes about that and kind of give a debrief on that. So Wade's go.
Oh, I know, right? All right, so, okay. I'm going to talk about for about 10 minutes about the Pomodoro technique, and I know that some people are doing it. So I know Cindy's doing it because Cindy sent me a text about it. I know you're doing it because we talked about it. Did anyone else try to use the Pomodoro technique this week? Oh, look at that. All right, cool. How did it go? Well, wait, before we do that, does everybody here, for those who don't know, we'll just assume really quick that someone doesn't know what the Pomodoro technique is. All the Pomodoro technique is, okay, the reason why it's called the Pomodoro technique is because Pomodoro is Italian for tomato, and the guy that invented it used a tomato timer in 1986. So all the Pomodoro technique is you take one task, you break it down into 30-minute increments, right? It's Brett spelling right there. And it's 25 minutes of intense focus on that one task. If you finish early on one task, you do deep learning and you review, and then you take a 5-minute break. Okay? If you have it, you do this 4 times, and then after the 4th time, you take between a 15-minute and a 45-minute break. Okay? So just real briefly, the reason for that is that you can only focus on, you can only get completely focused for very short periods of time before your brain starts to wander and you have internal interruptions, all right? So we'll start to talk about in later sessions about how to deal with internal versus external interruptions, but this does 2 things for you. 1, it makes you more productive in the time that you're spending, but 2, it kind of chills you out when you're dealing with complex multiple projects, right? Because has anyone ever had the experience where you're working on one thing and you feel like you should be doing something else, right? It's the whole Jim Rohn thing, is that when you're at the beach, you're at the office, and with your office in your head, you're at the beach, right? What we want to do is whatever we're doing, we want to focus just on that and be the best we can for that 25 minutes, okay? Because what Brett's talking about basically is when he's listing all of these things that you want to learn, you can learn all 3 of these things at once, right? If you do it on purpose and on paper, right? And you break it down in your head, okay? So let's talk, David, how did it go this week in terms of what did you use it on and how did it go? What did you notice?
So reset my study, so I went back to study unit 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I broke down those tasks in the 25-minute intervals of studying the whole unit and researching and basically just measuring myself.
Okay.
It went well
Okay.
because I was like a good 6 hours of just Pomodoro of like 25, and then I'll take a 5-minute break, and then I'll just do a 5-minute alarm. And I'll go chit chat with someone just to get my mind distracted, and then I'll come back as soon as my alarm would go off.
So you did 6 hours of Pomodoros?
Yeah.
Okay, you did 12 Pomodoros in one day?
Yeah.
All right, and then let me ask this question. Before you used the Pomodoro technique, were you consistently doing focused 6 hours of studying a day?
I would think I was doing 6 hours,
Uh-huh.
and then it was like an actual hour of study.
Okay, right.
Like, so it would be like, dude, I've been here for 6 hours, I've been studying for 6 hours, and it was only like, it would be an hour.
So just by just doing it on purpose and tracking your time, just by doing it in 25 increments,
I
you
know
got a
for sure.
six times return on your productivity. Yeah. Okay. That's now before anyone thinks that that's impossible, that's actually not impossible. They did a study of Fortune 500 CEOs. Okay, and Fortune 500 CEOs, Forbes. So this is a real publication. Went in and studied all of them, and then they came back with a result, and they said, how long do you think CEOs actually did productive work in a day? Right? How long do you think that the richest CEOs in the whole country came back with productive work in a day? Quick.
10 hours.
All right. Who else?
Or
4 hours. Okay. They came back with 90 minutes. And then there's a guy that's named Jack Welch, and he said, that is a lot. And they went back and they redid it, and it came back as 19 minutes a day.
wow.
So that the richest, most powerful Fortune 500 CEOs are only doing 19 minutes of productive work a day, right? And the reason is because between internal and external, and think of all the external interruptions that CEOs have to deal with, all the compliance and all the meetings and all of that, they're actually growing the business is only 19 minutes, right? What I want you to do is get really good at the Pomodoro technique. David had a 6-time productivity return on his studying because all he did was track it on purpose and on paper, okay? What did you do this week?
Reading.
Okay, and did you have a specific goal in mind in terms of what you were reading? Reading for securities or what?
No, just put aside and read.
Okay, so did you have a goal in mind for your reading, or was it just for pleasure?
Go on.
Okay, what was the goal?
One, two, write a paragraph on there.
Okay, and what you were reading was to increase a specific skill, or?
Increase my focus and then increase who I understand.
Okay, what were you, give me an example of what skill you were?
Listen to it.
Perfect. Okay, so this is a great example on clarity. All right, so number one is when we're going to get wide on something, just like in a Pomodoro, what you may want to consider changing this week as a suggestion is picking a specific skill that you want to improve, and then picking reading material for that skill, right? Because the reason is that you can increase your general knowledge all that you want in terms of life, right? But then you're going to be an inch deep and 2 miles wide, as they say. We don't want to be super shallow right now. What we want to do is we want to say, like, we want to focus on something in here because these things are what build our business and make us money, right? So say, for example, that you wanted to increase your, go through your skills here, Tony, and you were going to improve, like, communication. Pick a book on whatever it is, talk to Brett, talk to me, whatever, and we can pick specific skills and get you to go to those Pomodoro techniques within that time, okay? I'd like you guys really quick to read the text that Cindy, is it okay if I read the text that you sent me? Okay, so Cindy sent me a text on Monday that says, hi Wade, thank you, hello Cindy. I had a Pomodoro question, should I use this method even when I'm watching the Edge videos? So you can absolutely, because the good thing about an Edge video is you can turn it on, you can turn it off, right? And so I just said that you focus for 25 minutes, pause it, kind of do something else for 5 minutes and come back to it. Did that help?
It did, because in this one that I'm watching particularly for 63, it's all one video. It's like an hour and a half or so.
Yeah.
And that makes it sound really long. But in pieces, when I apply this Pomodoro, it's better because it doesn't seem as not stressful, but it gives me a break. It's not that it just breaks it up and it's more digestible that way. I'm remembering things better.
Right. Remember, so and here's the cool thing. One of the things that we're going to get into later, but one of the benefits of learning the Pomodoro technique is you actually learn how long things take, right? And if you learn how long things take, you can schedule your studying or whatever you're doing, right? Because we're going to start talking about branching from studying to working on our farm systems, right? You learn how long they take. Because right now, in your guys' head, right, The farm system is some amorphous amount of time it takes to do things. You don't know how long it takes to do it because you haven't done it enough, right? But I'll give you an example in terms of for your farm system. If you start to track the number of calls that you make, let's say of your frozen, right, or emails you're going to send, or Facebook requests, or whatever, you then know, I can do X number of calls or X number of email requests in 25 minutes. And then you can start to break up your farm system, and then you can start to do multiple things at once. Is it okay if I do 2 more minutes? Am I okay?
Yep.
So, because here's what the ultimate goal of what I want you guys to think about what this is, okay? Your business, I want you to start thinking about it like it's a garden, all right? Well, wait, what does that mean, right? Well, in a garden, you've got roses over here, you've got lilacs over here, you've got carnations over here. What's your favorite flower? Tulips. Tulips. Well, wonderful. I love you. That's beautiful. Okay. So, and the combination of all those things creates a beautiful garden, right? Well, right now in your guys' garden, most of you, the only thing you're working on is this roses, which is the study. All the rest of the stuff is getting choked by weeds and dying. You have no momentum over here. Okay. But if you start to think about your time as a garden and these different things of your farm system and everything else, you can actually watch an edge video for 25 minutes, have retention, take your notes, take a 5-minute break and go, oh, I'm going to work on my farm system for 25 minutes. You go over it because you know how long things take. You work on your calls. And after a while, you know which times of the day are the most productive. You know when you have the most interruptions. You know basically what results that you get, because we'll be tracking all of this on paper. And time then becomes your ally, and you're like, I got 25 minutes, and I'm going to grow my business and grow my garden, and you get pumped, instead of, I don't have enough time. My goal is for every single person in this room to shift, we'll never say it again, I don't have enough time, and shift from time being your enemy to time being your ally, right? And then, when you know that, you're going to teach to other people that those people on your team can do it, because then we're going to start to crush people, okay? So, any questions, concerns, quibbles, complaints? If not, yes, one question. Quick.
Yeah, multiple gardens.
Yeah? No. You have one garden.
My business is my garden.
You only have 24 hours in a day, just like everybody else, right? So you have everything goes into your one garden in terms of your family time, your personal time. Now, and your other business, the primary business, they're just different types of flowers. You have one garden. Yeah.
I want to take a minute to talk about why we are spending so much time on Pomodoro method. Because every single person in here, other than Sue and Brett, are studying for an exam, and other than wait, every single person in here is studying for some type of licensing exam. Is that true?
Even Sue and Donna.
Oh, stop it.
I'm almost done with it.
That is true.
Finish this
Gone
up.
at, sure. Every single person in here is studying for a licensing exam. Is that true? Yes. Okay. Every single person in here, I can guarantee, I don't guarantee a lot of things, I can guarantee that your studying is not as productive as if you study with this technique. Guaranteed. So if you're going to take an hour of your very busy day to study, would you like to be more productive or less productive in that hour? Okay, always more. How about you?
Yeah.
Tony, in the 4 to 6 hours that you spend here every day studying, would you like to be more productive or less productive? Okay. Does everyone believe, and if you don't, we're happy to have this very lengthy discussion about it, because both Wade and I have studied this way more than me. Does anyone believe that they can be more productive without the Pomodoro method? Does anyone think that the way they study for each hour is somehow better or more productive than using a particular method that focuses you for a period of time that you can actually, we know our brains can focus on and reduce outside distractions? No, we're all clear about this. Okay. So who was in the Pomodoro conversation last Saturday with Wade? Raise your hand. Okay. So you used it this week in your study. Did you find yourself more productive?
Yes.
Yes. Carson, did you use it this week in your study? Okay. Help me understand why you would choose to not use something in your studying that your partner is using and is saying it makes her more productive.
Because honestly, I've studied the way I study it, so it's just my personal choice.
Okay, so you study for a period of time that's working for you. Okay. Tony, tell me why, huh?
Not consistently, but that is three internal interactions like this.
Okay, so that's recognizing a Pomodoro block. Is there a name for that in Pomodoro? Where we are easily distracted by our internal ideas.
Yeah, well, it's just the concept that you just track your internal and external interruptions. It's not a name for it, it's just the fact that you recognize that you have internal interruptions and that those are
Okay.
some of the biggest ones.
So recognizing that is awesome. So I'm gonna ask you this week, so one of the ways that I have seen that is an option when you are not actually test taking is to reduce your Pomodoro time and then build up to the 25 minutes. If 25 minutes is too long for you to focus, and I say this mostly to Tony, who's spending 4 to 6 hours a day studying right now. If 25 minutes feels too long, then initially we can cut it down to 20 minutes or 15 minutes. Because you focus for 15 minutes is actually more productive than you trying to focus for 25. And then we build it back up very quickly. So there are techniques for this. There are ways to brainstorm this. And the reason we are teaching this and very focused on it, and it is one of the key skills now here, is because for almost everybody, it will help you study easier, it will help the information going easier, it will make you more productive in your study. And sometimes the way we study doesn't have to change. The question just becomes, how long are you studying for, and are you taking regular breaks? So Pomodoro figured out the ideal time, okay? If initially the ideal time doesn't work for you, fine. Every study in the book shows that taking small breaks when you're spending more than 30 minutes on any task helps you be more productive on that task. Period, full stop. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I'm going to ask everybody this week who is studying, anyone who sits down to study for 1 hour or more, because you're only studying for 30 minutes, doesn't matter. Study for your darn 30 minutes and go do whatever you were going to do. Okay? If you're taking a test, do not do the Pomodoro method. But if you were studying for 1 hour or more any day this week, I'm going to ask you to try this, because I think you will be surprised by it. I haven't met anyone who wasn't yet. And it takes time. It might not, the first time you might have monkey brain, right? Or the first time you might have monkey brain, but then you get to label it monkey brain and then focus. It truly makes a difference. I struggle with it all the time. I've been trying to use it. This is not like, oh, this is easy. Like, it sounds easy. You're like, oh, why couldn't I just do it? It's not easy necessarily. And when you engage in it, it truly makes a difference. Yeah.
Even when we were doing our 63 study session today, the time went off and I was like, guys, can I just have 2 more minutes? It was right in the middle of something. And so I wrote from the Pomodoro, just to right in the middle of something really important. So even we need to figure out within myself.
Well, you can finish, if you hit a break and you're on something that's easily finishable in the next couple, minute or two, then you just finish it. So, but whatever, you don't move on to anything additional, and you don't cheat on your break. Your break's can be anywhere from 1 minute to 5 minutes. But Robin said something really important, is that I've been doing this for like a year and a half, right? And I'm going through the certification and all that. So the only reason I'm saying that is that the whole thing about it is that it takes time to get good at it. It's a skill like anything else, and you actually never stop getting good at it, right? Your internal and external interruptions will always exist. It's just a question of kind of blending them and managing the best we can. So don't worry that you're gonna suck at it. It's just like everything else that we do in here. We suck at it when we first started doing it. Yeah. So that should show you that it's a skill. And so don't sweat it, just keep doing it. They have a saying, the next common role will be better.
Yeah, which I like. And I couldn't do 25 minutes the first time, which is ironic because I spend a lot of time sitting at my computer as a lawyer. And I could not get distracted for 25 minutes. I started at 20. And I mean, that was just my own blockage in order to move on. So, right?
Well said.
Bring me distracted. I love it. So thank you so much for bringing that to us. And we're all gonna work on it. We're all gonna get good at it. And if it doesn't feel right, call Wade and have a conversation because Wade is getting certified in this. Is certified?
Yeah, well, I'm in the process of getting certified.
Is getting certified in this. And so there's a brainstorming conversation that can occur that he'll have lots of ideas because he's learning from the guy who invented it. Which is so cool.
But you never implement. Yes, and even if you don't like it, it's very easily teachable and duplicatable. So if you're going to have your own way of doing things, that's fine, right? But learn the technique so that you can teach it to your team because it is an easily teachable, duplicatable system. And so that's why it's something that even if you're like, oh, this doesn't work, just try it.
Yeah, I'm gonna say one thing on the breakfast system. Yeah.
You know what made myself not realize it? I actually use this at work. I know the times where I can sit at my computer and get everything done, scorecards, whatever needs to be done, human systems. And then I know the time where the kids start coming into the health office when they have to come. I know the times the teachers come in and ask questions or need help themselves. So without me realizing that's what I'm actually doing. And it is really 25, 30, 40 minutes tops at a time. In increment times, you know, and when I see the clock, I know exactly what to expect next. And I'll get up, I'll walk away, I'll, use the restroom, just walk away or start shooting the breeze with my coworkers and then come sit down and get right back to it. So it works for me at work, and now that I realize what I'm doing, so I'm gonna start doing it. So.
You wanna add to that?
So one of the things so you guys know, and right, but we're in the distribution business, and so there's two things. One, our biggest goal is to prove that ego isn't our measure, right? So both Robin and I, from a productivity standpoint, from success, from a creature, like we both created some relatively powerful, significant successes in business. But here's something that we can tangibly do that's in alignment that helps both of us grow, push, and change. And it's not about this is how I do it. It's what's the best technique that can be used at scale, that can be taught and transferred, right? What can be learned, can be mastered, what can be mastered, can be taught, what can be taught, can be mastered, right? So remember, as you're developing skills, as you're being confronted in your thinking, when you're not the expert, right? I'm not standing up here. Both of us are pretty good, but we're not standing up here at the experts. We didn't take the class. Like, it's stupid for us to teach it. When we have someone who's learning it and being exposed to the guy that invented it, it would be ego and irresponsible for us to be like, okay, well, let me put our thing. So part of what you and I want to make sure that we've got from a growing and distribution standpoint is we want to learn the best tools we possibly can that can be grown and scaled. That the most people can come in, they can learn, and you can leverage in your business. And so even if you do it your way, one of the things to go is my way transferable? If it's not, even if it's as good for you, it might not be as good for your business if your business is the duplication of skills. Does that make sense? The secondary piece, if any little part of you comes up and goes, well, that's Wade, so I don't want to listen to him, that's really important for you and your scar tissue. And it could have been Wade, it could have been anybody, right? But these are those things. This is one of the how you're going to be able to navigate your own hurdles is you start looking for alarm bells that go off. Let's say, Arson, you don't like Wade, which isn't the case, but let's say he annoyed you. Let's say that whatever it is, there are people we don't listen to because they annoy us. And so we have a tendency, some of you are like, I know, Brett, why don't I listen to you? Cindy, I felt it, right? Okay, but this is interesting, right? But you want to evaluate, what is that costing you? Are you in charge of it? Look, there are people I don't listen to because the shit they say is batshit crazy. But there's people that I don't listen to because I don't respect them, and I've had to check myself going, look, I don't have to follow your life philosophy to glean this tendency. And so you and I want to be in charge of what decision tree you're using in order to apply certain principles. Whether it's, well, I do this and what I do works for me, there's nothing wrong with that, but does that work for the distribution model that you're a part of? Or am I receiving it because I don't like Paul, and Paul said it's changed his life, so Paul's an idiot in my head. You're not, but you know what I mean? So I'm not going to. That's an indicator for your own limitations. And so both of those are important, because one can be protecting your ego, one can be protecting some scar tissue, and you not be in charge of them, and it has a huge consequence to what it is we're trying to create. Does that make sense? And so just throw that part out.
And in our distribution method, so one of the things that I would suggest, so one of the things that helped me with adopting this method, which I'm still working very hard on, was we all, and this is what that whole Jack Welch thing was about, think we are more productive than we actually are. And it's very hard for our egos to hear. But rather than doing like the full Pomodoro written down method, which we're going to go to that next step, just for interest's sake, in your next study session, make a little mark on a piece of paper every time you were distracted internally or externally. You think about something other than studying, someone asks you a question, a text comes in that you answer, make a little mark. And count your marks. What the Pomodoro method does is it says you are committing to that 25-minute period, that short period, to literally do nothing but that one task, which means you're not answering the email that comes in. You're not answering the text that comes in. When the thought that flies into your head comes in, you put it out. Now, I understand that there's also reality and emergencies, but you're setting up your world to support that 25 minutes of focus. And what you'll see is not overnight, but over time, those little marks start to reduce and you actually become more productive, which means that you can spend less hours studying if each hour is more productive than you thought it was. So that's something to think about. The other thing to think about is we love hurdles. Do you know why we love hurdles? Cindy's like, why the hell would I love a hurdle? I have no idea why I would love a hurdle. Gives us something to overcome. Well, if we only love hurdles to overcome them, then we actually have to have hurdles in order to overcome them. Why in the distribution business do we love hurdles? It helps us increase our skills to help other people get over hurdles. When we get to get through the hurdle ourselves, when we get to work with our coaches ourselves, we then learn how to help someone else. When you first started studying, what did you think about charts?
Why? Hurdle, why?
Do you know what sentence you said to me when we first started studying together when we talked about charts? Do you remember the sentence? That's not how I study. Do you know a sentence you just said when I asked you about the Pomodoro technique? Okay.
That's how I learned.
So we have an opportunity in our own hurdles to recognize that it might be that it is how you learn, and we have an opportunity to reference that you never thought charts were actually useful, so maybe we can try new things, because there will be lots of people on your team who say, that's not how I learned. So it's something for us to be aware of and open to. Cool? Awesome. Okay, So getting back to this infamous paper and what's happening in our lives. So there are lots of different things that we talk about in here, and we are incredibly focused right now on passing these licenses. And at the same time, we're preparing for January. We're preparing for when they're passed, right? I'm trying to remember what it was and why it was, but you and I were talking about what you focus on, where you put your focus, because where you put your focus is where you're going to. And I was reading about that, and it said, if you're focused on something, on a goal, focus on overhearing the conversation of two people talking about you achieving that goal. Because it's the step after having achieved it, which I thought was interesting. So for example, when David was going to take the 6, he was focusing on what would it feel like, what does it mean, thinking about the conversation between his wife and his mother-in-law, with his wife sharing that he had passed the 6, which I thought was interesting. What they were saying is that it allows you to not just prepare for the goal, but prepare for the after goal. They did this with folks who were on stage, and rather than just preparing for the performance, they actually prepared for the applause after the performance, because it kept you moving forward. And so with the amount of studying that we're doing, the holidays are still coming. And there's going to be lots of opportunities for talking to people about what's happening in here. And we're getting all of us prepared for January. Because after you have these licenses, we're going to be field training, right? We're going to go out there and help people. That's the goal. We're going to be in corporations. We're going to be in homes. We're going to be helping folks close this gap by giving them the tools and resources of the wealthy. And we've spent a lot of different times in here talking about what does that conversation look like. And I found this really interesting quote that I wanted to share with you. Where did my quote go? Here it is. There's a character in a book, and he says, "It's absurd and unfair, this objection to talking shop. For what reason under the sun do men and women come together, if not for the exchange of the best that is in them? And the best that is in them is what they are interested in, the thing by which they make their living, the thing they've specialized on and sat up days and nights over and even dreamed about." And that struck me as we go into the holidays. And this is an article talking about being at a holiday party and having that one person say, "Oh, you're talking about work again. Oh, you're talking about Primerica again." We have a friend who was like, "All you guys do is talk about work. All you do is talk about work." And I thought, well, isn't that interesting? And this is a whole article that says, why wouldn't we all talk about our work? Why wouldn't we all talk about what inspires us? Why wouldn't we all talk about what our dreams and our goals are and what we're specialized in and what we spend time on a Saturday morning on? So I thought that was pretty interesting. And that the holidays are a real opportunity to actually talk shop. And one of the other things the article said was that if we all stop talking about what we're doing and what we're excited about and what we care about, that nobody will talk about it. And it doesn't leave a space for anyone to actually see that what they're doing matters, that what they choose to spend their time on matters to you. And so I started thinking about that and thinking about what are the conversations that we can have around the holidays. Right now, when it comes to your Primerica business, what are you focused on? What are you dreaming about? What's important to you? What are you specializing in?
Well, I think about when my licenses are obtained or even before, what I get to do with them. I mean, I vision coming here after my 9 to 5 and being able to call people that are waiting for my call I talked about that earlier, a couple of months ago. That's what I picture happening. Hey, Sam, there's people need to talk to you. Okay, let me give them a call. Let me introduce myself. Let me find out about them. Have that conversation.
Very cool.
That's what I do.
So that would be a wonderful thing to talk about at a holiday party, right? And in order for you to fulfill that vision, what do you have to achieve? Passing my licenses. For most of the people in here, the conversation of I'm studying for my investment license is a really important conversation. A lot of folks stay away from talking about what's happening in here because you think that you're going into sales mode by talking about what you're doing.
Some people ask you, oh, what are you doing this weekend? You know, they think I'm gonna say, oh, we're gonna go to a party, this, that, and that. I'm like, no, actually, I'm studying this weekend. And they say, for what? I'm like, well, my next securities license. And I'm like, well, what's that? And I'm like, well, it's gonna allow me to sit down and help folks plan out their future. And I'm like, what? So I've done that a lot this week. What are you doing this weekend?
And what's the response been?
They're just like, wow, I didn't know that that would be something that you're interested in. You know, someone at work.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm saying it with a smile, and they're like, wow, this must be really something that you like. It's really cool.
It sounds like the first stage of the baseline, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not exactly like the first stage of the baseline. Do you think you guys could have that conversation that Cindy's having with other people? Right? This is about saying, who am I meeting? Who am I seeing? Because most of the time we're seeing friends and family. That I have an opportunity to prime for what's coming, right? These are the folks that we're going to go back to in January to practice with. These are the folks we're going to go back to in January for support, right? You're not going up to them. Are you going up to them now and saying, can I practice an FNA with you?
There's a couple people that I've talked to about that I've known longer.
But is that your focus right now? No. David might be, but that's the only person in here, right? But that's because David's like, I have this goal in mind, right? So we're going to take a little bit and the next couple of minutes, and we're actually going to break up into groups of 2, and we're going to meet each other at a cocktail party. Because we really want to start practicing what is it about what you do here that you want to get good at sharing over the holidays in order to prime the people in your life for what's coming in January. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And Sue and Brett and I are going to walk around in order to help those conversations. Because we've been having these conversations for a while and we practice with each other all the time. Okay? So I'm going to put the 2 of you together. I'm going to break up the partnerships a little bit. I'm going to put the 2 of you together. I'm going to put the 2 of you together. I'm going to put the 2 of you together. And I'm going to put you together. Hurts?
That comes to the other one.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
just back here, the bottom one over there.
Go back to your bottom.
Oh, there's your
Just
house.
relax.
No one to hold it up.
So we'll spend about 15
So
minutes
weird.
now, get back together.
Let's talk about our feelings. Your feelings? You got rid of them? You just push them down, don't you know? You can